Hello, my name is Sarah Wilson, and I'm going to talk about the Assure lesson plan for the copyright project. So A stands for Analyze Learners. My learning student demographics right now are middle school English language arts students. More specifically, later I talk about 8th grade. And then differentiation, groups would be set up into groups based on mixed skill levels or the Kagan style. So one high, one medium low, and one low all together. GT or gifted and talented could have extended questions, and special education could have small group aid, sentence stems, and chunking. So for state standards and objectives, I looked at the 8th grade ELAR TEKS, and TEKS 12 is inquiry and research, listening, speaking, reading, writing, and thinking using multiple texts. The student engages in both short-term and sustained recursive inquiry processes for a variety of purposes. The student is expected to identify and gather relevant information from a variety of sources, examine sources for reliability, credibility, and bias, and display academic citations and use source materials ethically. I also looked at the AASL standards framework for learners. 4A3 is making critical choices about information sources. So I felt both of those really fell under copyright and making sure that students are using the right resources and using them correctly. Select strategies and resources. Strategies would be direct teach, video to engage and elaborate. So after I would direct teach, I would show a video to elaborate on what I've already talked about. What I found in my own teaching is that I can direct teach and then follow with a video, and it really helps some of my lower learners to have that visual aid presented again in a different format, just because they're getting the same information, but they're getting it in a different media. And then Kagan strategies for group design. Students will be given the definitions of the 4 rules for fair use printed out for them, and then the scenarios involving copyright will be pre-written. So to utilize the resources, the class will reread the 4 fair use rules. Scenarios will be laid out on tables for students to use, and groups will be predetermined and assigned at the beginning of the activity. To require learner participation, so I would begin with the lecture, and as I said, follow with the video. Students would be assigned to groups, and then students are given several scenarios involving copyright in which they must identify if copyright is being broken or falls under the fair use policies. Students would identify the fair use policy if there is one. Students will write their own scenario in which one of the fair use policies is used. So that would be an individual portion. We would start with the groups so that they could work together, and then move to an individual one, which is where, as I said, with SPED, we would have sentence stems ready for them to go so that would be differentiated. To evaluate and revise, I just did ES&U standards instead of giving them an actual grade. So E is for excels, S is for satisfactory, N is for needs improvement, and U is for unsatisfactory. Identify copyright, so it falls from the student identifies copyright every time down to the student identifies copyright less than 4 times out of 10. Identify for fair use standards, the student identifies the correct fair use policy every time. Unsatisfactory, the student identifies fair use policy less than 4 times out of 10. And then create fair use situation. So for the creation portion of it, the situation models using one of the 4 fair use rules correctly would be excels. And then the situation does not model copyright or the 4 fair use policies correctly would be the unsatisfactory. So again, the lesson would just be to lecture, video, have them work in groups, probably have them move around. I found that helps them a little bit more. They get a little bit more engaged. And then to create their own situation where they would be using the fair use properly. Thank you very much.